Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you again for taking the moment of being patient. We have the majority of folks have joined now, so I think we can get started. As I mentioned, we have our technical director and prize lead here on the line as well. And this is really just an opportunity for the most part for you all to ask us questions about the competition plan. Today is February 2nd. The competition plan will be due on March 1st, so you have under a month to complete it. Really what we're looking for at this competition plan is outlined pretty extensively in the competition guidelines. On page 4, you should make sure to read that and to use that as the outline by which to form your competition plan. The competition plan, as I mentioned in my next steps email, there is no page limit, there's no word count limit. However, we do encourage you to keep it succinct and to the point and really drill in on what is in the competition guidelines. Excuse me. A number of teams have emailed me and asked the question of, they wanted to edit their submission that they submitted when they signed the competitors agreement on the competition portal. Don't worry about that anymore. At this point, your full attention should be focused on completing your competition plan. That submission is used internally for us to assess what teams are working on, so we can start to categorize and understand what domains people are working in, as well as then to help mentors assess what teams they want to work with. So please, really, those submissions, you don't need to edit them anymore. So please focus exclusively on your competition plan. I think that is it. Oh, one more announcement is that we are working right now with our technical team to determine precisely how you can submit your competition plan. This is not something that is yet complete. And I just wanted to let you know that please, in terms of submission, hang on to it for the time being and work in draft mode on your own device or whichever service you want to. And when the time comes, we will send out an email to everyone with a link and explicit instructions on how to do that. So you're not missing anything. This should be a time for you to work with your team and with any mentors that you've connected with to really drill down on that competition plan. So with that, maybe I want to offer here to Amir or Ed to add anything if they so wish.
Thanks, Michael. That sounds great. I think you stole my best line, which was just go, focus on the description in page 4 in terms of your competition plan, page 4 of the guidelines. And I think you should treat this competition plan and the judge's assessment of your competition plan as determining whether or not you have a well thought out and well documented plan. We would like all of you to proceed into the competition. We would love it if no one were eliminated at this stage. This evaluation is really to ensure that because this is an open competition, that you have enough of a plan and enough of a strategy and enough of a test approach to ensure that you'll be able to be evaluated fairly throughout the competition.
Thanks, Ed.
Yes, I want to add, I'm trying to come online. This is Amir Benifatin, by the way. Just to add to what has been said before, this is an opportunity for you to now detail the first few questions you have been answering so far during the registration and explain to us what are your plans to try to tackle the problem at hand. Some of you may have strong knowledge in artificial intelligence and machine learning. Some of the teams have strong knowledge in a domain, specific domain, and they know what problems need to be solved. Some teams have a mix. Many of you may need support in various ways. So this is the time to explain that to us more in detail. This is also an opportunity for you to share with us what you think you're lacking and what level of expertise you may need, but specifically to try to build your goals in chewable sizes by milestones of 1 year, maximum of 6 months, and try to evaluate how you can achieve that and make sure that what you do has high impact and high output at the same time is practically reasonably feasible. So how you frame the work is interesting to us and for the judges to make sure that you're going to be getting the right support to be able to compete.
Thanks, Amir. So if you have questions, please start asking them via the QA. We will continue to answer them. We have till 1:45 today, so that is 35 more minutes. So please start sending them in, and we can really get started on helping answer them. So here's one from a team is, hi, we need to know to what extent, if any, we must develop our own AI code from scratch. What I mean is it okay to build a system based in other AI platforms or technologies to generate a solution for the grand challenge we choose? And can we call this solution, quote, our AI? Ed, do you want to speak to that?
Sure. What we really try to encourage in this competition is to build new innovative solutions on top of existing technologies. There's no value in asking you to reinvent technologies that already exist. So, please, we encourage you to take advantage of, all the tools that are currently available. There are a lot of great new open source technologies. Build on top of existing tools. Obviously, you need to make sure that you have the appropriate license rights to use those tools as part of your entry. But your value is in, and your entry is in essentially the synthesis of those technologies into a set of tools that can be tested and evaluated against your own goals.
Thanks, Ed. There was next question is, I'm curious about the grand challenge format. Is there a specific way of writing it? Ed or Amir, do you want to speak?
Sure, I can do that. I think what we would like you to do, if you look on page 4 of the guidelines, we specify that each competition plan has to include the following components, and we list seven components there. You don't need to organize your grand challenge plan, your competition plan, in that format, but you do need to make sure that you address all of those topics. It probably makes the most sense to have a brief introduction to what you're doing, and then make sure that you tick off each of those 7 topics so that they're clearly addressed. But that's not a prescriptive, that's a recommendation, that's not a prescriptive requirement. Your goal is to just make sure that your plan is clear and you've addressed those 7 topics.
Thanks, Ed. The next one is, how detailed should milestone 1 be given that we cannot predict certain changes and challenges in later steps?
Sure, that's clearly a fundamental issue in many fields, but particularly in this field. We would like you to have a clear, well thought out plan of how you're going to approach your problem between now and April of 2020, but that plan will change a lot. We know that, we expect that. So starting with your first annual status report coming this summer, you're going to submit a report on your progress, and you will submit an updated project plan, so that we expect you annually to refine and revise your plan based on the progress you've made, based on refinement of your goal, and based on taking advantage of whatever new technologies may become available.
Next question. Will the competition plans be shared broadly? We have some concerns about sharing our strategy in a public forum. Amir, do you want to speak to that, or Ed?
Ed can also speak to that. I can speak to that. The competition plan's private. to each team. They're not disclosed to other members of the community. If you work with certain mentors, it's up to you to define the framework of what you share and how you share it. Judges will need to know some foundation and some basic, and Ed can talk about the judges part, but judges will need to know somehow a little bit about how you would do things so they can assess. But all the codes, all the intellectual property belong to you, and you don't need to share it with anyone.
Yeah, I think that's quite right. I think the only thing that we would I'd want to point out is that part of the requirements here is that you specify a test plan with some test suites, and your test suites need to be open, public, open source test suites. The goal there is, in fact, to protect your proprietary technologies, in that basically you don't have to disclose what's under the hood, if you will. You're simply stating, here's what my solution will do. Here are some open source tools, some public tools that allow it to be evaluated, and anyone can look at those tools, assess what those tools are, and they can see the results of that evaluation that'll be performed under the supervision of the judges. But obviously, you know, we can't have an open competition and have the judges, you know, give out awards, but yet we can't tell anyone what you did. There needs to be that level of visibility, and what we've tried to do is focus that around the test suites, so that that's a clear interface between the material that you'd like to keep confidential and the information that's public.
Next question is, I have a team member who is an advisor to us. Should he be listed as a mentor or a team member? So there's two questions within this question. It's really up to you. Ultimately, it doesn't make any difference to us. It's really probably how you want them to be involved, in terms of, if you were to win the prize purse, how would they, or if they were to be complicated, how would they be complicated? So that's up to however you would like to form that relationship. We as a foundation and as the prize will have, we have no opinion on that. My team also, next question within this question is, my team has AI experts only. We would like to apply our findings to products. Do we have to worry right now about UI and UX and marketing, or later? It doesn't matter to us personally right now. That's not going to be part of the judging criteria in the short term. And in the longer term, it's really, you know, it's up to you of how much you want to invest in those UI, UX, marketing, etc. As you progress in the competition, but certainly not at the moment. And right now, teams should really be focused just on forming the competition plan.
Can I add something to that,
please.
Michael?
Yep.
Yes, totally agree. One small detail: the competition is not about creating a research paper or a shippable product on a shelf. It's about defining and showcasing applications of AI. So to the extent that you believe UX and UI are critical, it's up to you to decide. The fact that you want to be marketing a solution is up to you. It might not be a requirement for the competition. So whatever makes sense for you to demonstrate your milestones, right, needs to be done. But first and foremost, has to be an application of AI.
Yeah. Next question. Someone had just missed the first couple minutes of the call. Will we be submitting the application via document we provide, PDF doc, or will we provide a location where to submit the competition plan? The competition plan will be submitted via a document. It'll be submitted via the competition portal where teams registered. However, that has not yet been finalized in terms of the actual technical methodology, and we're in the process of building that functionality. So we will send out, as I mentioned earlier, we'll send out an email to everyone with explicit instructions on how to do that when it becomes available. In the interim, please just work on it in draft mode in whatever medium or program that you like. Next question was regarding a paragraph on page 4 of the competition guidelines, evaluation/goals evaluation goals/test suites. Each team will describe how judges should evaluate and assess their milestones and the performance of their AI. Teams must propose their own system for testing and assessing the quality of their AI technologies and advancements based on fundamental limits and should not compare them to human performance. Could you define or elaborate, quote, based on fundamental limits and, quote, should not compare them to human performance? What is beyond, quote, fundamental limits, and what is an example of comparison with human performance? Ed, can you speak to that?
Sure, and I know that Amir can as well. We're really just simply asking here that you describe your assessments and propose your system by comparing them to some absolute reference value, rather than saying we can do this 3 times faster than a human or 10 times faster than a human or whatever. It's really not meant to be a man-machine competition here. You're not trying to do that. What we're really trying to do is look for solutions that will improve AI-human collaboration and incent that kind of performance. So describing something as being relative to human performance isn't what we're looking for. What we want to say is this, what we want you to say is that this solution will do X, that it can diagnose this particular disease in an hour, whether or not there's whatever degree of human involvement is required.
Thanks, Ed. Next question. For teams that are doing health-related projects, it may be difficult to have huge progress in the first year, as the process of working with hospitals can be quite slow. Will that be taken into consideration when creating the 4-year plan?
Yeah, I mean, sure. You would definitely, one of the things that, or one of the reasons why you have this 4-year plan is that we don't want to excessively incent you to come up with good demos, just for the sake of good demos, rather than making progress towards your solution. So you just simply need to explain when you create your competition plan, we're doing this in the health field, doing that, it's good over the next 4 years, this is what we'll do each year. If there are some things that will take you until year 2 or year 3 to do because you need certain arrangements in place, just explain that in your plan. And then annually you will report to the judges your progress against that plan.
Next question, are the judges VCs or technical people or a mix? Amir, do you want to speak to that?
Yes, judges are mostly technical and domain experts. If someone is working on a solution that involves a healthcare delivery solution to home care or hospitals, we want to make sure that there is at least 1 or 2 judges that are evaluating in AI, and there's probably 1 judge in the mix that understands the scope and the impact that the solution may have on healthcare or hospital management or health delivery. It may be possible that based on some teams, judges may become a VC, because the solution may be financial, might be related to entrepreneurship, might be related to value creation in some form, or a VC personally has expertise in that domain. Be aware that the competition judges are nominated by the advisory board and independent of XPRIZE. So the judges are there only to assess your progress and evaluate that. We have a number of other experts and some mentors that you probably have seen in the portal. And those could be VCs, entrepreneurs, economists, technologists. There could be a total mix.
Thanks, Amir. Next question. Do you have to have your team completed by March 1st, the March 1 deadline when submitting the plan? If we plan to work with project volunteers or different experts at different stages, do we need to list them? You do not need to have your team completed by March 1st. You can add and remove team members throughout the life of the prize. So you can collapse teams into 1 team. You can do whatever you would like in terms of who you want to be on your team. Again, it's really up to you all to determine what that means. as in if you were to win, how the prize would be dispersed internally. Again, that's not, we do not have anything to do with that. However, we highly recommend that teams work that out amongst each other. To the second part of that question, if we're working with project volunteers or different experts at different stages, do we need to list them? If you would like, it's really up to you. It's not our, we don't take it into account necessarily. It's really up to you, however you want to have people be involved and whether or not they are publicly recognized for that involvement. Next question, can the plan include block diagrams, network diagrams, etc.?
Sure, you can describe your approach however you think best explains it to the judges. You can, as Amir just described, you can expect the judges to be familiar with your domain, and feel free, you can use terminology or diagrams or whatever is you normally expect to be familiar to someone working in the field.
Is it necessary to send a paper copy of Exhibit H? No. However, please don't send us anything except for the competition plan, the competitors agreement, any major legal documents. For the most part, we are going to rely on reaching out to you if necessary to produce those. So if we ask for you to produce Exhibit H or your insurance requirements, you should be able to do that. However, we do not want to add to our administrative workload of having to collect all of that paperwork just to have it on hand. So just please do complete all of this paperwork. Please be ready to produce it if we were to ask. However, please don't send it to us in email or anything, because we just don't really have a good way to keep track of everyone's everything. There would just be a bit of paperwork otherwise. Next question. We have a running website where any user can check out our solution. Can our website be regarded as a test environment? Can this be regarded as a user acceptance testing, or do we need to still submit a test suite to GitHub?
You'll still need to submit a test suite to GitHub. While your website might be a test environment, it's not a test. And the tests need to meet a few criteria. The tests need to be automated. The tests need to be repeatable. And the tests need to be publicly visible so that everyone can see what the test protocol is, so they can evaluate whether it's being applied fairly. If your entry is accessible via a website, or its interface is exposed by a website, I would recommend you just look into creating some test scripts that drive your website or drive an interface to your website to do your testing. That sounds like it should not be very difficult to do, but they do need to be automated tests.
Next question. Some teams have much more progress already completed versus others. How will that be taken into consideration when judging who goes on to the next round?
Well, fundamentally, you're being judged by your progress against your plan. Okay, you should have an ambitious plan. You are encouraged to, in XPRIZE parlance, do something that is, achievable. That it's audacious but achievable, and you should try to put together, put your best foot forward. But your goal during those 4 years is to, or 3 years, I should say, the goal through those 3 years is to show that you are making progress along the plan that you designed. It's not to be compared to someone else's plan or someone else's progress.
Thanks, Ed. Next question is, for healthcare related projects, will judges require any clinical data?
Let me say something about that, and then maybe Amir can talk about data and data sets for competitions, for competitors. Again, this is essentially up to you. If you are proposing an entry that requires clinical data to be evaluated, then you'll need to make arrangements to acquire that data and make it available. If there's a way that you can rethink your solution, if you think that getting that data would be difficult, there's a way to rethink your solution around it, then try to do that. Although I would expect that if there's a possibility that you would require this data, then you should plan for the fact that someone will want to evaluate your solution with other data sets, other clinical data sets, as well as your own. But Amir, did you want to talk about maybe some of the data partnerships and possibilities there?
Sure. I missed the piece part of the question. This is a question about will judges require any clinical data?
That's correct.
That's correct.
Judges are not trying here to evaluate FDA capability or CE mark or any form of medical validation necessarily. What judges will want to evaluate is to what extent AI can help you solve the problem that you have defined. If the problem that you're trying to define requires validation as a context and metadata of the clinical data that you've used, you may need to disclose them or at least talk about them. It's going to be a case-by-case answers. We are working with a number of healthcare institutions to facilitate field tests for teams, to allow clinical data testing, and also to provide with sample data sets. It's going to be domain by domain, could be ophthalmology, could be cardiology, could be related to neurosurgery, but we're working separately of the teams to establish relationships with a number of organizations so we can publish more accessible medical, but also only medical in any other field. We're doing for all the fields, by the way, but in medical specific purpose of this question, we're trying to make those happen. We can probably answer that question more specifically if we know more specifics and more context about your questions.
Thanks, guys. Next question is, can we send the plan a bit sooner and get some feedback on how to improve it if necessary? In other words, do we get only one chance? Yes, you do only get one chance to send it. However, we really encourage you to connect with mentors who we are working with to make sure that they understand how to give good feedback to teams on their competition plans. So the goal of the mentorship program in this this phase of the prize is for them to help you with the competition plan to make sure that it is in line with what is really being required and asked in the competition guidelines. We are having these webinars to help answer any questions that you may have about how to structure them, or qualitatively answer or quantitatively answer those questions that are in the guidelines. However, another avenue is with the mentors. They should really be your guide for this phase with completing that. So,
can I add to that, Michael?
Yep.
Yes, what Michael says is absolutely accurate. Final submission is only once. You can work in a draft mode as many times as you want and solicit local help, work with the mentors that have been identified through the portal or other mentors. You can also, if you have specific questions, ask us. We might not be the expert necessary to answer that question ourselves, but we may be able to help you with formulating the questions or identifying more people, the case might be. So we don't want to be in the middle of everything necessarily, but if needed, we are here to help.
Thank you, Amir. The next question, and the last one I'm seeing at the moment, so if you have more, please send them. Does the test suite need to be sent along with the competition plan?
Well, we don't expect you to have the test suite in place by March 1st. What we do want you to do is describe what your test suite will do. So as the guidelines say, teams must propose their own system for testing and assessing the quality of their AI technologies and advancements. right? That's your job, is to explain to us how you're going to test it, but you don't need to provide us with those test suites this early. Those will obviously evolve during the course of your development in the next 3 years.
Thanks, Ed. Another question we got here was, will we be required to share the data sets? Will that become an open platform?
To answer
Sorry.
that?
Sure, go ahead, Mamir.
We encourage all the teams, as Ed mentioned, teams will disclose to the judges their data set and their test suites. That is not public. However, we encourage all the teams, for the benefit of the community and to democratize AI as a whole, to share test suites and also data sets that may feel relevant to the general public. So it's up to you to decide how much of that you will share. Some teams might choose to share some of the data sets that may not be relevant in 12 months forward, but going to be help others, and keep for themselves the ones that are more specific or strategic for what they do. This is not an obligation, is a recommendation. However, the test suites have to be disclosed and shared with the judges. And if you want to add something to that, please go ahead.
No, I think that's a great description. Thanks.
Seemingly the last, okay, we have another question here. When do you need the test suite available? I guess it would be once that we feel that the solution is ready to be demonstrated.
The test suites will, I would say, in an annual basis, you'll be making your reports to the judges. So you will need at each year's progress point to be able to show how your progress to that date will be tested.
Some team members are involved in companies that have gotten huge amounts of AI funding to expand their products. SoundHound, for example. Will there be conflict of interest between what they do for us and their companies?
I would just say that's entirely a matter between you and those companies. That's not, so I mean, if there's a conflict of interest, it would be between the two of you or your partners. So you should be very clear in any kind of arrangements you make that you have appropriate permissions from people and you've got the right kind of legal protections in place for everyone. That's just not something that XPRIZE would be involved in.
Any other questions?
Just to add to the last questions, many of you will be working through your network of mentors that are going to be manifesting themselves through XPRIZE networks, working with individuals that may be working in certain companies. I'm referring to the last question. Those individuals will be giving you their expertise, their time, and it's up to them to decide how much of what they share with you, the expertise they share with you, is their personal knowledge. What of what they're sharing with you is the company data or the personal data, and so forth. So to rephrase to paraphrase what Ed said, the burden is on the people helping you. You just want to be aware that, as Ed mentioned, you're not infringing on any copyright or licensing that you don't have access to. But if people are helping you personally with their own knowledge, they just need to be aware that what they're doing is okay with their companies. Or if they do it on a personal level, it's a personal knowledge that has nothing to do with their companies.
Thanks, Amir. Another question just came in. How many teams are accepted past the April 1st deadline?
There's no limit. Again, as I mentioned earlier, we've said this a few times, the April 1st judging date is to ensure that the teams that proceed have complete, and well thought out competition plans so that they can be fairly evaluated through the course of the competition. There's no limit. We have 156 registered teams. If we get 156 teams after April 1st, that would be great. There's no limit.
Any other questions from anyone? I haven't, if anything comes in, I'll answer it, but Another question here. Could you elaborate on what specifically you're looking for in the competition plan? Are there any red flags that you're screening for?
I would just repeat, what Michael said at the beginning. Look on page 4 of the competition guidelines, and that explains what the competition plan contents should be, and the 7 essential components that you have to address in that plan.
To close out, if there are any questions, keep sending them. Go ahead, Amir, I'm sorry.
I just want to highlight something. The question was about what you expect in competition plan. Is there any red flag? Answer was given about what needs to be in the competition plan. There are 7 questions. You want to answer those 7 questions. In terms of red flag, we're not here to limit your capabilities in terms of competing. We just want to make sure, as Ed explained a few minutes ago, that you have thought through the competition and you have established your milestone and your competition is clear to you. If there is any red flag, would be in the circumstance of someone or a team trying to do things that are probably out of scope or not feasible at all, or already done by others and there is no innovation there. So we will probably have conversations with the teams to highlight that and ask them questions, and mentors can already help you with setting some scope around that. But the only red flag would be if teams are in both extremes, right, of the competition spirit, which is we're trying to create something which may not happen in the next 20 years. And judges might feel that the AI or the technology is not there yet, or teams that are trying to do things without having any knowledge of the domain, and they're basically defining very loose, very unachievable or too light of a goal. And it's not going to be a case for being rejected. It's going to be a case for us asking you questions about why are you setting those goals too high or too low. So, but again, we're not trying here to be limiting anyone. We're trying to make sure that you do prepare your plan to compete properly. It's how you think about the next 3 years that matters to us. What you're trying to do, how you're trying to do it. And you may not have all the team members, but you have to mention that and highlight the needs that you have so you will know how you're basically set up to compete. What's the context around you? Because teams have different level of capabilities and preparation. You're going to be judged against yourself. So it's like playing golf. You're playing against yourself. So you have to define what you're trying to do and how you're trying to do it.
A few more questions have come in. I'm interested to know about the typical criteria for judging. What are some typical metrics we should look out for addressing the measurement of our AI?
I would simply say that this depends on your proposal. One of the challenges of this competition is that it's very broad, very open, and there are potential entries and potential solutions that cover a huge range of technologies. So we need to rely on you. Obviously, you tell us what kind of measurements you would like. The judges who are familiar with your field will be able to evaluate that, but we can't tell you in advance what will be appropriate for your solution.
Okay. The next question is the fact of having a patent impending around the technology development subject, which is a subject of teamwork during the competition. Is this a plus to the team, or on the contrary, should the projects be new and or fresh, not yet patented?
I don't think that, innovation and patents are the same thing. I've seen a lot of patents that don't seem terribly innovative, and there are some great innovations that aren't patented. The fact that you may have a patent in process, patent pending, or an application pending, or a patent issued, is not really relevant to the competition. We want you to be doing something that is new and fresh, but that's not defined by whether or not there are patents that cover it.
Next question is, how nitty-gritty should the milestones be, given that they are often being planned a year or more in advance?
You should lay out a project plan. I mean, if you were setting off on your own to do a 3-year project, or you had to describe in a business plan to raise funding what you were going to do for the next 3 years, you would lay out a project plan and you'd tell us, okay, this is what I expect to have done at each of these points. And, it would be shocking if you actually came back and said, yes, after 1 year, we have done exactly what we said we would do. The world will change too much and you will have unexpected good news and unexpected bad news in your progress. And so we expect you annually to report to the judges, here's what our plan was, here's what happened, and here's how we are revising our plan for the next year.
Next question. Is it acceptable for the Grand Challenge to focus on social advancement of AI to create buy-in and accessibility and transparency rather than quantitative goals?
Amir, do you want to say something about that? I'd be happy to fill in if you don't.
Let me read the question again. Is it acceptable for the Grand Challenge to focus on social advancement of AI to create buy-in and accessibility and transparency rather than quantitative goals? I'm not sure I understand the question. Maybe the person who asked the question can precise.
Yeah, and, I can try and speak to it a little bit as well in the sense of, definitely please specify, but I'm going to broadly answer that's an acceptable Grand Challenge in so much as it makes sense in context to other challenges. So buy-in to what, accessibility to what, and transparency of what. And, as much as you can quantify that buy-in equals X and accessibility and transparency equal X, I think that those will be, that will benefit your findings and your competition proposal and project. So please do specify if we haven't answered your question, but I think broadly that should answer it.
Yeah, and Michael, I would just add there that this is a competition around technologies and the application of those technologies to AI. If you were simply evangelizing why AI provides social benefits, that's not something that would be appropriate for this competition. But if you created some novel social benefit using AI and could use it as an illustration, we do think that one of the primary goals of this competition is to demonstrate to the world the significant social benefits that can come from the application of AI technologies.
Yes, well said.
Thank you. Seemingly the last question, and in fact, it's about that time to wrap up. So regarding test scripts, do you expect functional testing? Shall we send reports about it?
Again, it's a little hard to answer specific questions. There's nothing wrong with functional testing. There's nothing specifically required about it. Again, the test suites that you'll develop or that you'll enhance if you're working with existing ones are open test suites. So they should allow both the judges and potentially the public to evaluate your technology, and that this is that your testing needs to progress between now and April of 2020. So both your development plan and your milestones and your test suite development need to show to the judges that actually, yes, you do have a plan to get from here to there in 3 years.
Thanks, Ed. So it looks like we're just about nearing on time. So thank you all for joining. It's very much appreciated. I want to remind you that next week there is a webinar with IBM Watson and their team. We'll be kind of talking about how they will be helping out teams throughout the life of the competition and what will be available to teams who move on through the competition after April 1st. So that is February 8th at 2 p.m. Pacific time. I sent you all an email yesterday that I'm going to be sending this today, and that will have the details to RSVP. However, it was initially also sent in the next steps email early last week. So you should already have the information. However, I'll be sending a reminder to you all either this afternoon or tomorrow. Additionally, the week after that, we'll have another one of these competition plan Q&A. So please come with any more questions that you may have. We'll be getting nearer to the deadline, so please, try and get as specific as you can. That way we can be as helpful as possible. Also, if you haven't connected yet with a mentor, please do so. They are there for you specifically. We've prepared them. There's about 50 of them who have signed up to help, and we've prepared them to help you on the competition plan. So they know what's up. Ask them to get involved with you, and hoping that they are able to be helpful to you. So if you have any questions, please email me. As I've mentioned in the broad email, as well as to some of you individually, I'm trying to funnel most of the questions into these webinars. As you can imagine, 156 teams emailing. I just don't have the capacity to answer all of you in the level of detail that is likely required. So as much as we can try and have these specific questions be directed into these webinars, that would be, I think, not only valuable in terms of our time savings, but more valuable actually for you and for the other teams to hear the answers and those questions. This is by nature a collaborative prize. We are trying to build a collaborative AI ecosystem with this prize, and as much as we can do this publicly and transparently, I think it benefits all of us. So thank you again for your time. We will be in touch soon. If you have any questions, email me, and we'll talk to you soon.